LSD horror stories. Took 2 tabs with a friend after our first attempt failed. It was really silly to take the second one as the first one hit, and it was pretty strong, but we were like, let's go all the way, why not? Fast forward 2 hours and we are walking in Hyde Park next to Buckingham Palace and not managing to tell space anymore. Kept asking each other for a lighter so that we can be sure that the other one was there and not a hallucination. Get back to the flat and things got bad. Parts are missing, but there was a point where I started questioning my own existence. Somehow convinced that I had been imagined by my flatmate, and as soon as he falls asleep I will cease to exist. I took a knife to myself to try to stop it, but didn't want to go through as he convinced me that it would wake him up and subsequently end me. Spent another few hours running around in a mad loop, naked with a knife around the house. Apparently confessed that I am not real and gay. Shit was weird, and I still get that trip if I get really high, but I contain it nowadays.
Took about 400 UG sold to me by my man Tyree. This was my second time doing acid and was a considerably higher dose than my first time, being 150 UG. Everything was going pretty well, so I decided to smoke a bowl out of my bong. After I took the hit, everything just became more intense and I felt this gold shimmer of light and something started talking to me in my head. It was some type of fairy bitch and she was made up of a gold light. My eyes were open but was still able to see her in my head, and she was talking to me about how she hasn't encountered anybody with that ability for a long time and she wants to interact with me. Naturally, I'm kind of shitting myself wondering what the fuck is going on and why there's a fairy bitch in my head. I get an odd rush of euphoria, adrenaline is it. She is talking to me and she started talking about how the last person left her, and as soon as she said that I felt this sinking, evil feeling that was telling me to stop interacting with this thing, and as soon as I do I hear it in my head telling me not to leave as it starts laughing. As that happens I fall into this weird psychosis where I'm trapped in a dimension with this fairy demon thing trying to steal my soul, and I really feel my soul being torn out of my body and I'm afraid that it's going to take me and I won't come back. I had to call my girlfriend explaining to her that I didn't want to die and there was something trying to take my soul. I felt a physical manifestation of my anxiety encase my body. Ever since I've taken acid, since I have had the same evil, sinking feeling which I've just kind of recognized as part of the acid at this point. Overall 2/10 experience, the acid fairy is frightening.
I am pretty sure I fell asleep and went into a weird like dream state that I was convinced was reality. I was in a never-ending simulation that repeated through 4 cycles forever. I freaked out, got violent with my family and ended up being wrestled down by cops and taken to the Complete amnesia about what happened next day. Went geocaching with some friends. All is well. Went to bed, woke up feeling full-blown anxiety attack. My body felt like my arms were behind my back, but they obviously were not. Confused why I feel like this, went back to sleep. Later realized it was a repressed memory of being carried to the ambulance. Over the next 3 years PTSD, memories came back, and I had random flashbacks, depersonalization over the event. 6 years later, I'm okay. I'm more or less convinced it was all a delusion my mind was stuck taking way too seriously.
Saw demons in people's faces and in ads on the street. Was left alone by friends who left me watching March of the Penguins, in theater. Awful. Panic tripped for like 18 hours. Still hallucinate when I have a severe panic attack. Sometimes if I let my eyes relax I can see the little happy people, as I called them, that were dancing on every single surface, especially my skin. Looked a lot like those bears from Grateful Dead. Can't look at 'em because they look so similar. For years patterns made me trip a little and then caused a panic. I wasn't ready. I had shit friends at the time who said mean things once they knew I ate it, stuff like that. My fault I suppose in the end for trusting. Back to the awful trip, I blocked a lot of it out. I really thought I was seeing demons, the world was topsy-turvy, my body felt awful, just muscle shivers and cramps and feeling sounds, but like awful plastic crunching sounds, not like feeling the sound of the breeze in the trees and shit. Awful. I can barely trip now, even with lots of love and safety and prep, I have to micro. I remember for the next 4 years after the bad trip I had one reoccurring thought my young brain hadn't learned until then. some things can be undone. I don't think I ever stopped seeing shit. I think I just got used to the patterns and tune it out. I have visual snow anyway, maybe that helps. Already used to sussing out real from the rainbow magenta iridescent fake layer I always see on everything, especially the sky and snow.
Not LSD, but shrooms, mostly. Also had booze, ecstasy, weed and meth earlier that day. Big birthday party. Incredibly intense sensation that I've been dead for a while and all my perception is just post-mortem illusion. Got vividly transported to cemetery near my house, where I floated above graves and people couldn't see me. In reality, I curled in corner of the room and pissed myself there. That was 13 years ago, but for whatever reason I started getting flashbacks of the deathly visions these days.
I have experienced time non-linearly with regards to my LSD trips in a couple of different ways. On my first trip, it felt like I was flowing through my own mind and observing my childhood memories and mindset. I became a kid again, really. At one point I remembered a reoccurring dream I used to have as a child. I would be standing above a river, looking at the riverbank. My perspective would change from dream to dream, with a narrator telling me what these different perspectives are. Each dream would only last a few seconds, enough for a single sentence describing the change in perspective. It happened a few times as a kid. This is normal vision. You can zoom in, etc. My first experience of nonlinear time was the realization that the riverbank from my dreams was from the same small river I took a bridge over daily in college. I can still picture the exact spot in my mind. I attended school out of state and never even visited said state before attending university, so there is no way I would have seen that river as a child. My second experience of non-linear time is more direct. A few weeks before a planned camping trip with a couple friends new to LSD, I had a dream about one such friend. He appeared as a transparent blue apparition in my mind, laying down and holding a tablet up with his hands at about head height. He said, "Is this okay?" and moved to what I felt was an awkward position. Standard weird dream, I thought. After a long day of tripping, the three of us lit up a joint and went back into our tent to lay down and watch some movies. All of us were tripping very, very hard with the addition of the THC now, and my friend holds up his iPad and asks us if we can all see it, just as I saw in my dream. I realized a few days later that the poor lad's arms were probably just tired after a while. In my last trip, while meditating, my chair creaked, and in that moment a wave of energy hit me and I saw a flash of a vision. In that vision I saw a C-shaped device with a stream of pure yellow energy flowed between the gap. The device sat on a well-lit table in what might have been a laboratory. I recall the device itself to be about 30 centimeters tall, dark-colored, and with a wavy texture, almost like twisted rope or vines. I hope my precognition is real and I finally get to understand what I saw.
First time baby me took any psychoactive drugs. I was at a party, 16 yo. We all took pills which we were told were MDMA, turned out to be AMT, 18+-hour intense tryptamine, speed combo drug, exhausting even to an experienced user. And I was nervous, so only took like half a pill. Bad idea. The issue was, with only half a pill, no discernible trip effects that I could identify were happening, i.e. no visuals. I had no idea what tripping was, and simply thought I hadn't taken enough MDMA to feel anything. When all my friends started coming up, the next 12 hours were the most intensely anxious, panicked headspace I've ever had around a large group of people. I felt like I was losing my mind without even knowing. Realizing I was high on anything and was totally freaked out by how fucking weird everyone was being on what was supposed to be a warm fuzzy rush pill. Felt like I was a complete alien with huge barriers between me and all my friends, and spent a long time crying on the bathroom floor before calming down and going downstairs to chill in the early hours of the morning, 5 a.m. or so. Only realized what had happened that night 2 years later when I took AMT intentionally, and when I came up I realized this is what fucked me up so bad. Later confirmed we had all been sold AMT as MD pingers. From a stupid fuck of a dealer who thought giving kids a dangerous and intense hallucinogen instead of regular E-pills was acceptable.
The first time I got LSD this good I did not know it. I wanted to trip really hard and never had any problems with bad trips on high doses of shrooms or LSD before. I took 4 tabs and it felt like I took a CIA weapon more than a recreational drug. I thought I was burning alive at one point because I had to pee and didn't realize that was what it was. I took off my clothes and poured water on him to make sure. Things kept happening that broke my perception of reality and I didn't know I was on a drug. It felt like it lasted thousands of years. I went into the room where my sister was and started crying because I didn't know what else to do and I needed help. I couldn't see much outside of my head even with my eyes open. I kept dying over and over on a loop, my worst fears being simulated repeatedly until I was able to genuinely submit to them happening without fear or desire for anything else, which has gotten rid of my anxiety and depression permanently. It was the best thing that has ever happened to me. Have done that stuff multiple times since then and it is always mind-blowing and unlike the other acid I have done, which I always test.
Gonna keep it super short. B19 drop powerful LSD.1 sheet shouldn't do much. FUCJSHF bit im fucked. Best friend and I are smoking. Watch cherry intently cause I'm have. Intense humming begins. The cherry beggings to warp. Perfect digital 3D image traces friend. His flesh is gone. All that remains is a red light wire frame of my friend. Humming intensifies. Friend is now living red wire frame. Somehow snap back to normal level of high. I think I saw the fabric of some aspect of creation.